module that we'll take a look at, which is module number 2, takes a look at the second A. The first one was who you are. That's the username password verification. The next one is what can you do. Alright, that's called authorization. Here we're going to take a look at authorization called exec authorization. Okay, and we'll take a look at command authorization. First thing I want you guys to understand, what I'm doing right now, until I tell you that I'm going to command authorization, I'm still in exec authorization. Later on we'll do command authorization, and in this particular module we'll also take a look at what is known as role-based views, also known as CLI views. Alright, we'll take a look at that as well. But right now my focus is strictly going to be on exec authorization. Good? So whatever I'm going to talk about right now until I'm done with lab 1 is strictly exec authorization. To understand that, the first thing that you need to understand is that on a router, every single command that you have is assigned to one of 3 privilege levels, or exec levels as they call them. Every command, I'm not talking about users right now, I'm talking about what? Every command is assigned to a particular privilege level. What are the different levels? We'll start with 1. This is all commands that are available to you in user exec mode. Which mode is that? All these commands, the commands, I'm not talking about the user, have a level, exec level of 1. Good? The next level, 15. What happened to 2 through 15? I'll tell you. Those are custom levels. You can customize them. Level 15. All commands. All other commands. Besides the ones in user exec mode. Are what? Level 15 commands. What are level 1 commands? Are level 1 commands. Everything else is level 15. Show IP route, level 1 command. Show run, level 15. Config T, level 15. Router rip, level 15. Interface, level 15. Any command is level 15 except for the ones that you see in greater than sign. Which commands are those? These commands. All level 1 commands. So far so good? There's a third level as well. Level 0. Basically these commands are # and beyond. What do I mean by beyond? Config T, interface, router, whatever. Level 0 commands, known as default commands. Commands like question mark, exit, help, no. Do you understand that? They exist where? These commands exist everywhere. You guys agree? Where can you do exit? Anywhere. Question mark, help, anywhere. These are default commands. So basically it covers each and every command on the the router. But I'm not talking about users right now. I'm talking about what? Levels assigned to commands. Now, in order for a user to execute a command, two things that have to be in place. In order for a user to execute a command, two things need to be in place. What are the two things? Number one, correct mode. What do I mean by that? I cannot type in router rip in the pound sign. Can I type in router rip in privilege exec mode? No. Interface command. I have to be where? In global config or beyond. I cannot do it in privilege exec. Number one. Number two, the user exec level or user privilege level should be equal to or greater than the command privilege level. So what does that tell you? That the user also has a privilege level. So there's a command level assigned to the command. There's a level assigned to the user as well. What is that level? How does it get assigned? When you log in and you are in the greater than sign, your level is 1. You know, when you type in enable, you're actually typing in enable 15. You're doing two things with the enable command. Number one, you're moving from the privilege exec to the, from the user exec to the privilege exec, moving from one mode to the other. But more importantly, you're also escalating your user exec level from what? 1 to 15. Because you actually typed in enable 15. You don't realize that. You type in enable, but what's being typed by default is enable 15. So that means anybody can escalate their level to 15? If there's no enable secret password, yes. If you have an enabled secret password, that means in order to escalate your level from 1 to 15, you need to know that password. If you know that password, you can escalate your level. So when you type in enable, you're escalating the user level from 1 to 15. By default, when you come in, your level is 1. You can check that. When I type in enable, take a look. Why? What did I type in? I didn't type in enable. I actually typed in this. You don't realize that. So coming back to my statement over here, the user privilege should be equal to or greater than the command privilege level. So when I did enable, I went into into privilege exec mode. I can type in show run. Show run, the command level is 15. And my level, because I escalated my level to 15, I'm also at 15. I'm in the right mode, which is the pound sign mode. My level is equal to or greater than. It's not greater than, it's equal to what? To that command level. It's fine as long as it's equal. So there's also a user level that you need to keep in mind. That gets compared against the command level. So there's a level assigned to the user, there's a level assigned to the command. But still, even if my level is 15, can I type in router rip in the pound sign mode? Can't. Why? The first statement is not true. Correct mode. I'm not in the right mode. The level itself does not control or govern my execution of the command. It's a level complemented with the right mode. Although when I'm in privilege exec, my level at this point is what? I'm 15. I cannot do router rip. Why not? I cannot do router rip because I'm not in the right mode. Good? Clear? Now, you can play around with this if you want. And that's what people used to do in the older days. What they could do is, because you have a gap between 2 through 14, they left that gap for you to create custom levels. where you had the ability to take commands from level 15, put it into a custom level, let's say 5. I want a particular user to be able to, let's say, do routing commands. Route rip, IP route, those type of things. What I can do, but I don't want him to do other commands. What I could do is I could pull those commands from 15 and put them as 5. Create a custom level 5. Make sure you give him enable and config T, because if you don't give him those 2 commands, he will not be able to get into global config to do those commands. But besides EA and config T, just give him routing commands. Create a level 5. When the user logs in, you do exec authorization, in which when the user logs in, you assign the user exec level. You don't give him 15, you give him 5. You give him 5. When he logs in, he will not be prompted for enable, he'll directly get into privilege exec mode. When he logs in, you're assigning him a privilege level of 5, he automatically gets put into the # sign mode with a privilege level of 5. Who assigns him this privilege level? The ACS server does. This is called exec authorization. The ACS server says, this is your exec level based on your username and password. It has been assigned to you by the administrator. So what does he get if his level is 5? All commands are level 5, which are the ones that you downgraded to 5, and below all the show commands. But now these commands that you downgraded to 5 are no longer 15 commands, they're now level 5 commands. Do you understand where I'm trying to get to? They're no longer level 15 commands. They now become level 5 commands. Make sense? How about the user should have all rights? He will log in, he'll get assigned level 15. Can he execute these level 5 commands? Yes. Because he's at what? 15. Take a look at the second statement I put in over here. The user level should be equal to or greater than. The user level is 15. He can execute level 5 commands. But keep in mind, as soon as you downgraded the level from what? 15 to 5, it's no longer 15 and 5. It's just 5. A command can either be a 5, 50, it can only belong to one level for that router. So by doing that, I could control my users, administrators actually, to a certain set of commands within my router. Good? This is called exec authorization. It's not called command authorization. You might say, well, I'm controlling commands. No. The responsibility of the ACS server is just to assign the exec level. What commands are within the exec level? That's up to you. You can change it. The problem with this, the exec level change of the command is done locally on the router. The ACS server cannot change the level of a command. It can only assign a user in exec level, this part. It cannot touch the command level. It needs to be done locally where? On each and every router. So whenever I change the level of a command, it needs to be done locally, decentralized. Make sense? How do I do it? How do I go about doing it? I've already set up my relationship up between what? R2 and the ACS server. Let's just use command authorization on that. All right? How do I do it? Step 1, in order for you to do command authorization, configure a custom privilege level with the appropriate commands done locally on the router. It cannot be done on the ACS server. Good? So I log in as the administrator, go onto my router. Let's do this on router 2. The way I do it, first command I need to give him is config T. First command I need to give him is config T. Privilege. The way the privilege command is the one that changes the mode, by the way. Followed by the mode that the command will be executed. Where do you type in config T? What mode do you type it in? No, what mode? Exec mode, config mode, exec mode. Level 5, configure, terminal. What I'm saying is I want to bring down the level of configure terminal to level 5. This command is executed in privilege exec mode, the pound sign mode. That gives the ability of the user to type in config T to jump into what? Global config. In global config, I want him to be able to do routing commands. Privilege, which mode? Configure, which is the global config mode. Level 5, command, router. But doesn't give you all the sub-level commands. You still need to go in and do what? Individual commands. But what mode is that? When you type in router rip, what mode do you get into? The router config mode. Privilege router, because it's under the router mode. Level 5. Network. Version. Summary. Auto summary. What else? Actually, I won't give him redistribute. This is good enough. That's all I'm giving him under router. What? Network, version, and auto summary. He cannot do redistribute. He cannot do distribute list, all those. You understand what I'm trying to do? And then I also want to give him in the global config mode. Level 5 IP route. Give him IP route, static route. So what does level 5 now contain? These commands. Good? Clear? Hasn't changed anything yet. I just set my foundation up. I have 0, 1, 5, and 15. I would need to do the same thing on 5 routers if I had 5 routers, or 10 routers if I had 10 routers. Decentralized. Now I'm ready to do exec authorization. I want the exec authorization to be done based on what? The ACS server. So on the router side, I'll say AAA authorization exec. Give it a name, tauthor, group what? TACAX, backup local. So if it's down, you do local authorization. In the local authorization, remember that username I had? Admin. I give him a privilege level of 15. Why? That guy only logs in. That's the main administrator logs in. He has to have 15. He'll get all rights. So if you take a look at his username, it looks like this. Admin has a privilege of 15. So when admin logs in, when does admin get used? When the ACS server is down, the super admin comes in and logs in, he'll have 15. But the other one, exec tauthor, is the one that gets it from where? From the ACS server. Just a list, I need to apply it to what? My telnet connections. I'll say authorization, exec, tauthor. What does that mean? When a user logs in, get authenticated based on the ACS server, but not only get authenticated, also ask him for the privilege level for the user. Questions so far? So what did I do over here? Create the custom level. Number 2, configure an exec authorization list pointing towards the ACS server. Apply this list to the VTY lines. telnet and SSH connections. Configure the user with the appropriate exec level on the ACS server. That's what I need to show you now. Good? How do I do it on the ACS server now? The router is going to ask the ACS server, what does the ACS server do? I want our user 1, I think they have that. No? Yeah, our user 1 and 2 should be assigned privilege level 15. Our user 3 should be assigned privilege level 5. Good? How do I do it? Now, in order to do this, the first thing that you need to do is create what are known as policy elements. You need to create what are known as policy elements. Under policy elements, you'll take a look. Under device administration, I have two options: shell profiles and command sets. I'll create a shell profile. Pay attention, because it's not as simple. If you've done 4.x, it's completely different. Create. I'll create two policy elements over here. One I'll call it priv_15. That's just a name. The main thing is under common tasks, I'm going to give it a privilege level. Static. This is just a name. The actual thing that I'm doing is over here. I'm giving him a exec level of what? 15. Whoever I assign what? This policy element called priv15. Similarly, I'll create another privilege level. Priv5. Don't worry about the other parameters that are used for tons of things. There's ISDN, callbacks, that type of, you can put in a whole bunch of stuff. Just focus on the stuff that I did. I created two privilege levels. Assigning privilege level 15 is assigning the privilege level of 15. Priv5 is assigning a privilege level of 5. Although I've created it, means nothing at this point. I have not attached it to anything. So far so good? Now is the time that I come in and link them. Where? Under access policies, go to access services. Remember this? Authorization. So under access policies, access services, click on authorization for device administration, because that's what I'm doing. I'm doing device administration. Good? Nothing over here. I want you guys to see something, and they'll come back, and we need to come back over here and do something. I want to assign our user 1, our user 2, what privilege level? Level 15. So I'll say rule 1. It does it based on groups. It does not give me an option of selecting what? A user. Does it? I want user 1, user 2, our user 1, our user 2 to have what? Privilege 15. I can assign the privilege 15 over here. Okay? That's not a problem. But to whom? These are not the choices that I have. These are not the conditions I want. I want to have the username as an option. So what I do is cancel that, go to customize. Customize allows me to specify which options do I want the conditions to be based on. And one of the options over here should be the ability to specify the system username. If I don't want this, I can get rid of it. I'm not doing it time date. I can get rid of it. Device group. So I'm just doing it based on either the group or the system name. So I'll just see two options over there listed. And I want to assign the shell profile as the result. So once I do that, so it's very important that you do the customization. Why? If you don't, you won't have the right options to select from. Create. See the change? Rule 1, I'll say system username equals ruser1. Or you can do it based on a group, but then you would need to put the user inside the group. I have not done it, so I'll do it based on ruser1. Permit access? No, I want to give him what? Remember the element that I had created earlier on? You need to select that. Click OK. Done. So rule 1 says any identity group, username should be ruser1. The result, I'll assign him privilege level 15. Similarly, what do I do? Rule 2. ruser2. Access I'm assigning him, again, is 15. Good. Create. ruser3. Access. Privilege level 5. Good. Once I'm done with it, save the changes. It's top down, so order does matter. Make sense? Clear? Test it. Let's see. I'll go to router 1, telnet 20.2, username. ruser1, ruser1. First thing I want you guys to notice, I did not get into the greater than sign. I got put into what? Directly into the privilege exec mode. Normally when you telnet in, you get put into what? The use exec mode. And take a look at my privilege. 15. Config T, router rip to a question mark. Bunch of commands. Right? I'll telnet in, but this time around I'm going to log in as ruser3. I'm in. What's my privilege level? Level 5. Can do it because show run is level 15. I can do config T. Why? Config T, although by default is a level 15, but remember I brought it down to level 5, so I can execute that. Router rip. No problems. Take a look. What commands do I see? Auto summary, I gave it. Default, exit, help. I didn't give them. How do they come? Level 0, default commands. Remember those? They don't do anything. They're just maneuvering around commands. Network, I assigned it. No. You can only know something that you have access to. You cannot know something that you don't have access to. So if you did network and you want to get rid of it, no is there. And what else? Version. So very limited in terms of what you can do. ruser3 can just do routing. Make sense? What is this called? I'm controlling commands, but it's not called command authorization, it's called exec authorization. Why? The reason for that is that the relationship in terms of the involvement of the ACS server or AAA in this whole section has been just to assign the exec level. That's it. The command changing of the command level is done locally on the router. That's not ACS. My job as the ACS server was to hand off what? The level to the user. That's it. Exec authorization. I'm authorizing the exec level, not the commands. Now, it has two disadvantages of what I showed you over here. Nowadays, nobody does this. Two main disadvantages. One, I can get around. The second is a big one. Number one, decentralization. If I wanted to do it on 20 routers, how would I do it? I would need to put the same privilege exec commands on what? All 20 routers. Well, I can get around that, copy, paste, or use a network management tool like Cisco works where I paste this config onto multiple routers at the same time. Doable. Cumbersome, but doable. It's not centralized, but it's doable. The second problem is a bigger problem. Let's say I wanted to create two set of individuals, two group of people. One group was a routing protocol expert. I only want to give him commands to the routing, all the routing commands, like I did. And I had another group that was managing my security on the same router. And I only want to give him the crypto commands, the VPN commands. Can I do that? Not really. Why not? There's inheritance over here. Let's say you create all the commands for level 5 as routing protocol commands. Security, you create them as 6, for example. You assign the people from the security group to level 6. What does he get? 6 and 5. Let's say you do the other way around. 5 and 4. Routing protocol 5, security 4. 5 gets 4. You cannot put them in the same level, then all commands are available, right? So that problem of what? Inheritance basically is a big problem over here because you cannot create distinct groups. You can have a hierarchy, higher and then lower and then lower and lower, that's fine. But nowadays there's a lot of what? Separate group management for different type of technologies. That's not available to you with exec authorization. That is the biggest flaw that you have in exec authorization, not the decentralization part of it. Why? Decentralization I can take care of with a lot of NMS tools or copy paste. And that's what I'm going to do in the next lab. Remember what I told you up front. I will do exec authorization until I tell you I'm doing command. So right now is just exec authorization. Lab 2 is going to be command authorization. You guys are okay with this? Good?